Good morning / good afternoon, folks. With it being Arsenal versus Liverpool, I had to get a special guest. James, what you saying, my guy? Before you say anything, I just finished watching your Gooner episode with Sharoy, Curtis, and Turkish, and it was amazing, man. So how you doing, my guy? Good
I
episode.
appreciate that a lot. Thank you. I'm all good. Yeah, it was good. We had a little collab with the OG Gunner. OG original Gunners. There we go. I can't even get their name right, bless them. But you all know them, Turkish and Curtis. They were fantastic, and it was good. Yeah, I mean we're just talking about what on earth we do with the 11 for this big game. Because it is huge, and Arteta's got some real head-scratching problems. I'm sure we'll get into it, man. How are you? Thanks for having me back on, by the way. It's a pleasure.
James, man, you know you're part of the furniture here. You're always welcome. It's lovely to chop it up with people that first and foremost support my football club. And actually, it sounds silly, but you use your brain. Like, you have your opinion, you're open to new knowledge, and it's always great, man. Like, you say things that make me think. And as you kind of indirectly said there, we have a lot to get into, man, especially in and around Mikel Arteta. The first thing I want to ask you, if we lose on Sunday, is the title over? Is the title hopes over? I'm sure you've been asked that a million times.
2 minutes in and the big question, but you're right.
Have to, man.
It's the big one. It's also like the question that puts into perspective how big a game this is, because no one would ever say it, but there are games you can lose and your season isn't over, right? No one ever wants to lose. Losing it will never feel acceptable for the level of team that we've built and what we've done the last few years and we're trying to get to. But this is certainly not one of them. If there's ever a game where it's like, okay, we might lose, but we can do something after. This certainly isn't one of them, purely because of how well Liverpool have started the season. For what it's worth though, I don't think the title race is over if we lose. I just can't say that 25th of October. Not when 2024 has been ultimately such an unbelievably impressive run from Arsenal. Not when. Let's remember, if we lose, I mean, the bigger thing for me, with all due respect to Liverpool, it's being 6 points behind City that worries me, not 7 points behind Liverpool. I almost think it's early enough to catch them. People forget we were 5 points behind them in February when we played them. And that's pressure. We're in the final 3 and a bit months, and we had to win because that was the last time we were going to meet them. So I don't think I can say that on the 25th of October, if we lose, that the title's done, because I've seen us put together. Look at the start of the 22-23 season, 50 points in the first 19 games. Look at the way we played from January, first game in January in the Premier League, through to the end of the season, only dropping 5 points, I think, from basically the whole second half of the campaign. So Arsenal can survive losing this, but it's very damaging. I think it's very damaging if we don't win.
Facts, man. I think you're bang on the money. Keyword, like key phrase, as you said there, is very damaging, because I'm sure, you would have seen the sentiment. Obviously, Arsenal always a game away from a crisis. We lost to Bournemouth. While we beat Shakhtar Donetsk, I'd hardly say fans, were encouraged by that level of performance. And, with the line of work, you do, you've definitely seen like the talking points and the sentiment around the club. Now, when you look at Liverpool, they do have a couple of injuries, not to our extent. Yeah. Clearly, their form is out of this world. There's a lot of question marks with Arsenal. How are your feelings as a fan then going into the game on Sunday? Like, how are you, James, feeling?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm excited for it. Not because I'm super confident we're going to win. I do think we're going to win, but I'm excited because without sounding too cringe and cheesy about it, right? Is this not what we wanted Arsenal to be, right? A team in these
same thing I always say.
We wanted to be a part of these big matches. So yes, of course there's an underlying nerve, because the higher you go, the further you fall. We got to a point where drawing at the Etihad was the subject of ridicule. Being happy about
2 years in a row, actually.
Right, and then you do it with 10 men, and then you're still ridiculed. So the higher you go, the further you fall. So here we are in this situation where we're playing Liverpool, win, and we close the gap to a point, and we inflict a second defeat on them in the season. And either way, we'll stay within touching distance of City, and we'll have got another big game chalked off the board, and dare I say, another big win chalked off the board if we win this game. Man, that's exciting to me. I have to say, I'm just excited. If it goes wrong, we'll do all the post-mortem and all that, but we still got the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, the Champions League, and then you just got to dig in and see what the Premier League throws up for you. So I'm excited because it doesn't feel like our season's on the line, but it feels like this is bloody big. I mean, I think we'll struggle for more bigger games than this season. This, I think, will end up, at the end of the campaign, will end up one of our top 5 biggest games of the season, I think.
I think you're bang on the money, man. I think it's a mixture of everything. I think we'll get into it, but the injuries, the question marks about another season where you need to win the Premier League. Obviously, the connotations between winning and losing. For me, the fact of the sentiment being negative around the club. You know how Arsenal fans are. We're the worst team in the world against Shakhtar and Bournemouth. If we go and win against Liverpool, we could take on the world. You said it there, though. Why do you think we'll win for you?
Part of it is hopium. I'm not going to lie. I mean, part of it is you feel something as a fan, right? I don't know what it is. You know your team. But I could be gauging this one wrong. Let me flip back to February when we beat them 3-1. I was on DR Sports, I was on Big Up Drifty, I was on Coppish TV, and I was on just chatting to some Liverpool fans. And I predicted Arsenal to beat Liverpool 3-1. And at that point, they had Klopp. They were missing Salah for the game, I should say that. But they just beaten us at the Emirates in the FA Cup. We drew 1-1 at Anfield. They were 5 points clear of us at the top of the league. And I said we win 3-1. And everyone was totally shocked. And I justified that by saying, if you look at the games we just played against them at Anfield and in the FA Cup, I felt we were the better team. So I didn't believe we were going to go through a third game, tactically outclassing them, physically outmatching them, creating the chances we create, and then not win again. I just didn't think that would happen because I felt we had the better of them. And it proved that way, and we won 3-1, albeit we had a slice of luck with maybe a couple of the goals. Now, this season, I wouldn't say that's what's fueling my optimism this time. I think what's fueling it is that I still think we're capable of getting to a level like we did when we beat Villa, like we did when we beat Tottenham, like we did in that first half against Man City, like we did against PSG. I still think with the players out, we're able to get to a level that Liverpool at the Emirates won't be able to cope with. And also, I didn't watch Arsenal challenge City for 2 seasons and finish above Liverpool and Klopp's Liverpool for the last 2 seasons and go unbeaten in the last 4 Premier League games against them. For me to have a few injuries and basically come into my shell and go, we can't do them. We can't beat them. We might not. They're a very good team. They're a very good team. Slot's a fantastic manager. But we are too. And it depends what Arsenal show up. We're not showing that form at the moment. But if we do, come on, there's plenty there to hang your hat on for me. So I think I'm also trying to manifest it. I'm also trying to manifest goodwill and good spirit going into the game.
Keep it up, man.
Yeah. But what about you? I mean, what are you predicting? I mean, are you feeling apprehensive, or are you feeling like this team can show up?
Honestly, I'm in 2 minds. Obviously, if I start with the negatives, the way we've been playing, the lack of creativity, the backdrop with Saliba being out and several injuries, maybe there's pressure, a bit indirectly unrelated, but related to Arsenal versus Liverpool. It's a sense of, I don't want to be disrespectful to Liverpool, my own club, but one of the biggest reasons you don't want to lose is you don't want City to pull away. You don't want it to be an unattainable amount of points. Where I have a bit of belief, and really it's a bit of copium or hopium or whatever people refer to it as, whenever the chips are down against our football club, right? Like whenever there's several injuries, there's not really a reason logically to think on paper that we could beat Liverpool. That's when we kind of turn up, if I'm honest with you, James. And we're playing at the Emirates. As you kind of said earlier, like we've gone to kind of too far to turn back. You've had 2 title races against City. We wanted these problems. Like we really wanted these problems. We've had 2 defeats in 2024. We wanted these issues. It's like we've gone too far to turn back. Let's just stand up to be counted. And as much as I'm nervous about the injuries and obviously how we're playing, at the end of the day, Liverpool still have to go out there if they want to beat us or make it difficult, bro.
You just touched on something that I love the way you said that. I might start using that. I'll credit you. You said we've gone too far to turn back. Now, if I look at that as
way too far,
effectively, if I look at that for myself, that's exactly how I feel. I've gone too far to go back. And what I mean by that is I'm bigging up Arteta. For me, the second best manager in the league. Emery CV clears him, but for me, in terms of the best manager in the league to challenge Pep Guardiola, to build a team that can challenge Pep Guardiola, I have Arteta there. I believe in these players. I liked our window. I do videos analysing what I think Arsenal are doing well. I also do videos analysing what I don't think we're doing well. There's a video coming out tomorrow on my channel talking about how we can improve things.
Turn on the notification bells on the Goonerverse, people, man.
Share that, man. Thank you. But I also feel like I've gone too far down this road, and that doesn't mean I'm forcing a fake opinion. I totally believe what I'm saying. But I can't be making videos about why I think Arteta is great, why I think we've turned a corner, why I think our defense is fantastic, how I think we've got so many different tactical setups, only for when we are a little bit in the mud on the injury front, for me to go, well, we can't do it. you know, do I believe in this team or not? So it's partly me as well,
True.
just trying to channel it because I'm like, I'm going to believe in this team and manager, and I might be wrong, but also one game isn't going to define all that. Let's see what the season brings. But I feel as Arsenal fans as well, we need to be ready to go to war a little bit, man. This team, like,
Facts.
they've been fighters, and against Bournemouth, I said something I very rarely say about this team. I felt they weren't really leaving it all out there. I didn't see them do everything for that
100%.
game. But I rarely throw that criticism out there. And I feel like as Arsenal fans, the Emirates Stadium, all of us on the internet, when we're talking about our team, what they can do, whoever it is, wherever you are around the world, right, as an Arsenal fan, man, it's Liverpool. Come on, like let's bring it to them. And
If
I
you
think
can't get out for a game like this, might as well stay at home, man.
I couldn't agree more. And if we lose, it's going to hurt just as much as it would have if I was pessimistic, for me anyway. So I'm just like, let's go for it. Come on, it's Liverpool at home. Let's do it.
And the one thing I'll give Arsenal is, if anything has been positive so far this season, it has quote unquote been the bigger games. Like, fair enough, there's plenty of talking points where City's concerned, but at the end of the day, we got out there. It was a courageous 10-man performance. Aston Villa, I'll be honest, I thought we got out of jail, but we still done what we needed to do. Spurs, whether people think that's a big game or not, that's their business. We won. Don't let it stop against Liverpool. And the best way to somewhat, you know, sober fans up or get them back on side is to win against Liverpool. And again, park the fans off for a second. The players, you lot deal with the pressure. You lot have gone through everything Mikel Arteta has done, the good, the bad, to get to this place. You're going to let it be done against Liverpool. This is the perfect game to go again. Obviously, we know who we've got. We've got Liverpool, we've got Inter, you've got the Chelseas, the Newcastle. We've got a bunch of top games. If our season is genuinely all doom and gloom now, then me and you need to stop making content. The players need to stop playing. We just need to pack up everything. That's what jars me. Like, as much as I've got nothing but respect from what I've seen Slot do, they're not invincible. Like, they can be got at. We have to believe, bro.
Yeah, and by the way, for anyone who's feeling pessimistic about this team, I totally get it. Like, I'm also not sitting here saying, you know, guys, there's nothing wrong. We're fine. Please believe, everything's fine. No, there are problems.
You're definitely not doing that.
But you know, for me, the problems aren't deep enough to the point where I completely change my expectations of this club. I sometimes, like, from people who don't love my content and maybe more critical, you know, sometimes
can't imagine that's the case, man. We love you, James, mate.
That's fine. Everyone likes different things, but maybe my standards are brought into question. My standards for this game are still the same. Without Odegaard, without maybe Saka, without Timber, without Saliba, my standards and expectations for what this team can do are the same for this game. Again, now, maybe against City, I feel happier about a draw than other people. But when it comes to Liverpool at home, I'm feeling really good about. Well, I'm always going to feel really good about this team's chances. I mean, unless we're talking like 8 of the first 11 out. But I don't think we're in that totally exceptional stage, and we have injury problems, but who doesn't? You know, we're talking about Liverpool are missing Alisson. It's a big miss for them.
Jota's out as well. The manager's come out and said he's not going to be about.
Jota always hurts us.
Yeah, so, yeah. He's a criminal against us.
They're having to do things at left back because Tsimikas isn't perfect, but Robertson's not in great form. So do you go Gomez? But if you're doing that, then they're losing one of their attacking outlets. So they're not going into it feeling like everything's perfect. You know, I saw some titles of Liverpool fans after the Leipzig game. The general feeling, I didn't watch that game. I'm being very honest about that now. The general feeling was, you know, it wasn't pretty, but we take the 3 points.
Got the job done.
So it's not like they are, you know, tiki-taka, you know, battering everyone their way through,
firing on those cylinders.
Well, they're a fantastic side. We're gonna have to be at our best. Don't get me wrong, people listening to this. We have to be at our best to beat them. I just believe Arsenal can do that. I believe we can get near enough to that, even with the players missing. But what's your score prediction? I know we're doing this quite early, but
go ahead, man.
What do you think?
Honestly, I'd bet your arm off for a draw. I think if I use my heart,
you think it's looking that bad?
I'll take a point, man. I'll take a point against. On one hand, of course, you know, we've improved against the top 6. We're actually competitive again. We want to get into a scenario where we get a run of games against Liverpool. I would take a point considering all the contexts around the game and everything. I'll take a point just because you live to fight another day. My heart tells me we're going to lose. I mean, my brain says we're probably going to lose 2-1. My heart says, do you know what? The only thing that kind of gasses me is I actually think I will be pleasantly surprised by the performance I see, regardless of the injuries. The only reason I don't think we're going to necessarily win, and I'll probably change my mind after this live stream, is because of those injuries, which we're going to get into. Do you think Arsenal fans have been over-exaggerating, regardless of how Liverpool pans out? Obviously, the back of the Bournemouth game in the Shakhtar. Do you think Arsenal fans are exaggerating emotionally with how we are as a club at the moment? You got to ask difficult questions, James, man.
Well, but it kind of depends on what people are saying. I mean, if people are saying we have problems, we should have done more to address who could play an Odegaard spot, and we didn't add the firepower we needed in the front three, and maybe we are a bit too pessimistic with 10 men. I think those are all fair concerns. I think they're all completely fair concerns. If people are saying the title race is done immediately, and we're in a top 4 race, for me that's going too far. But it's also very early to place where everyone is. I mean, Villa are level on points with us, and no one's talking about Villa in the title race. They're going, City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Villa are probably sat there going, we've got the same points, or disrespecting us for.
It's a good point.
So yeah, but look, everyone can. I always think like everyone can have their opinions on how good they think we are. That's fine, as long as if during the 90 you're back in the, you're like, we're all wanting the same thing, which is Arsenal to win. And I think every fan does. Like I think whatever concerns we have. I mean, take Turkish for example, right? And you're just saying you're watching the show with me, Turkish Curtis. I love Turkish bits we do forever Arsenal, and he's got a more concerned outlook on the squad than I do. But like I've watched games with him, man. This guy is like championing every single one of them
Passionate
out there at the moment. Yeah, because so are people going too far? I don't know. I'm just probably like I think because it's Liverpool at home, I'm really just like trying to channel that real positive energy in terms of, not that it probably makes any difference, but
I hear you.
It's just how I feel. It's just how I feel. Like I feel like we can still do something, and every kind of hurdle is an opportunity to prove a point. Because if we beat Liverpool without Saka, Odegaard, Timber, Saliba, I mean, imagine what people are saying then. Wow, like they had all those key players, probably 3 of our 4 best players missing, and we went and did that. So I just see that as an opportunity as well.
I think you're bang on the money, James. I think it's a thing where I'm of the same belief in that there's plenty of reasons, and I'm not saying to completely forget them or disregard them. There's plenty of reasons to be negative or have concerns about how we are as a football club. But I'm with you in the sense that it's Liverpool, in it. Get up for the game. Whatever happens, in it. The performance. That's what annoyed me about the Bournemouth game beyond everything. I always say nobody likes losing. I definitely hate losing. I'm a sore loser. I play a lot of games with my nieces. They're like 4 years old. I try my best to win. I'm not that guy in it, and I hate drawing. But it comes with football. For me, it's the performance. And I think the Bournemouth one, I know I've probably said this a number of times this season. I genuinely think that was the worst performance because, as you kind of said, I don't think we left it all out there. I don't think we got the basics. I think, whether you want to blame Saliba, Trossard, Kivior, Raya for their involvements in the penalties, I just think we were sloppy and second best over the field. You did not deserve to beat Bournemouth with 11. I need to see 11, a complete change. Pardon?
Even with 11, I agree with you. I think that went under the radar for some fans. They were saying, well, the red changed the game. Look, a red card affects any game. It does.
As we've seen in the last few games we've had to play, man.
Right. However, come on, we weren't at it. And Shakhtar kind of proved that. But, yeah, I agree, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I got my eye on some of the comments. I mean, there was one from Inner Circle. Big up Inner Circle. I know we disagree on a few things, and he said that.
He's part of the furniture. He's a tough cookie, man.
That's okay. But he says something about the window being woefully inadequate. Says we should stop gassing it. I mean, here's the only thing I say about that. I actually don't disagree that we didn't do enough in the window. I think we really needed a difference maker. I think we needed someone who could win a game out of nothing. We needed someone who's going to apply genuine pressure to the front three as well. And I think there were players out there. There was Eze, Kudus if you tried really hard, and a few others we maybe could have gone for. The one thing I'd say, though, is the team we're talking about coming to the Emirates and beating us because they've won 11 games in 12, and if they win, we'll go 7 points ahead of us, also had fans like extremely disappointed with what they did in their window.
Especially in the middle of the park with Liverpool.
They were furious that they didn't bring in a 6. They were really disappointed. So do we see how this isn't quite matching up? Like we're saying that we didn't have a good enough window, and therefore we're worrying it's not going to be enough to beat this side who did even less in a window. And if they win, are put in a superb position. And they had more to do in their transfer window to catch City than we probably did. I mean, just look at how last season ended up. So two things could be true. We didn't get that trump card we wanted. You know, that ace in the deck, something really kind of special that would have just taken us another level. But to say that that's like the be all and end all for the season, and to say that, well, that's kind of it, like we're not good enough, when the two teams that we're expecting to beat us to it are also didn't really do much. I mean, Gundogan and Savino, to be fair, is a very good window, and those are the only two. So maybe City you can't put in that conversation, but Liverpool you can't put in a conversation of having had a great weekend and proving us wrong. But look, so Inner Circle's come back. He says Liverpool have won a Premier League and a Champions League since we last won a Premier League title, so the stress is not the same. That's probably why, as an overall kind of, as a media, whether it be mainstream or whatever, we don't apply the same pressure to Liverpool because they've been there and done it in recent years. But that's not the point. They're trying to chase the title this season still, no? You don't like... you don't get extra points because you won it a few years ago. Like, you are still all starting from zero with the squads you've got, and they haven't done much either. And they're the team that we're worried about going 7 points clear of us. So that's why the conversation about the window, for me, I get it, I entertain it. There's definitely something in it. But the fact that it's season defining, maybe at the end of the season, we might look back at it and go, we fundamentally didn't do enough, and that's the reason. But I'm not sure we're quite there yet, because Liverpool are kind of proving that you don't have to have had some amazing window to kind of put up the kind of form that they're putting up.
Do you think, on, like we've been talking about on the field, do you think off the field, kind of piggybanking off the summer, do you think, you know, what we're seeing right now, mainly around the lack of player availability, is self-inflicted? Because, you know, there's one thing to question Mikel Arteta tactically in midfield about creativity and how he's assembled the squad, but there's no direct replacement for Odegaard. Clearly, you know, there's no upgrade on Kai Havertz, take nothing away from what he's doing. You know, Bukayo Saka's missed out. And while I think, you know, the one area us Arsenal fans were confident about would have been our defensive depth, and it's funny how life works out because that's fully being tested. Of course, you know, we have been done unlucky with injuries, you know, and we have been dealt a rather harsh hand. But does it feel like that for you, that we've kind of invented our own issues?
Well, Arteta, I had a theory that it was in fact a good / very good window if Waneri came through as the player that Arteta seems to believe he is, and Raheem Sterling actually rediscovered some old form. The reality is Sterling certainly isn't doing that, and Arteta isn't playing Waneri. So now you're looking at it going, well, we didn't add anything particularly exciting in the front three. I think Reece Nelson's made a better start at Fulham than Sterling's made at Arsenal. And you've got, you know, and you've got Waneri barely playing, so we've had to move Trossard into the 10. Like, it doesn't look great, does it? I mean, for people like me who are trying to say, listen, the window's not as bad as people are saying, that's an L.
I haven't really got a leg to stand on. I'm the same, man.
Yeah. That's a you know, that's a cross against my points. But I'm hoping throughout the season that will prove different. You know, still early in the campaign. Maybe Waneri grows into the player that, you know, we think he could be. But at the moment, Arteta doesn't feel it's quite right. And maybe Sterling comes to life at some point. It's, like I said, still very early. But yeah, the window is looking like something where we might well have gone into it with a squad at a certain level, sold a few players, added a few, and jumped a little bit. But people needed us to jump like that. So I'm pretty confident the squad's in a better place. The question is, has it improved significantly enough to overcome Man City? Because I think in Gundogan and Savino, they did improve their team. So I don't know. I'm quite torn on that. I'm also not sure I'm meant to know whether the window is definitely a good one on the 25th of October. I feel like I'm not meant to know that yet. Maybe I should. I know we like to comment on everything that happens at Arsenal, but I feel like that's not meant to be defined yet. But maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, if we judge the Havertz signing in October last season, it's going down as one of our worst pound for pound ever. Maybe
forget us, one of the worst in the Premier League by that logic.
Right. At this point of last season, now, honestly, it's now entering a conversation of, if he is the striker that leads us to silverware, especially one of the big ones, especially the Premier League, you are not talking about that £65 million. I
don't think you're talking about that with Kai anyways. I think people can have their question. I think the conversation's probably moved where people can see Kai Havertz is one of the first names on the team sheet, one of our most reliable players, proving a lot of people wrong. The only issue you could have with Kai is that I think you'll get double figures, but are you going to get 20? Are you going to be doing that? You probably need a striker. You know, looking at our front three, if we answer it honestly, I'm not saying just because we signed a striker, alienate Kai Havertz. I think he's great. But if you look at our front three, unless you can find a player that is twice the ability of Bukayo Saka, right wing's locked down, left wing, I love Martinelli. You could make a case of upgrading there up front, you know, whether it's the Yokerezes, the Isaacs of this world, you could do that. But that's nothing to do with Kai Havertz. I must admit, I'm torn on the window because I think we stepped forward and stepped back. So ultimately, we're kind of in the same place, bro. And what I mean by that is the additions. I know he's injured, and I promise people are going to get onto the injuries, but Calafiori, great addition, you know, very versatile, taking to this life at Arsenal like a duck to water. Mikel Merino, and I don't know how you feel. I think people are judging him a bit too early and doing a bit too much. I think he's unlucky that he's had a big injury. He's come into a team where Arteta's trying things and he's clearly playing catch up with fitness, but a good addition. Raheem Sterling, nothing to do with Sterling. That just tells me that whatever we planned to do in the market in wide areas, it didn't happen, in it. So you made something happen. The same indirectly with Neto because we was messing about with goalies. So I think it's a mixed bag. Again, I know I'm a fan. I'm not privy to what we tried to do and all of that kind of stuff. I do think the market, on one hand, it's difficult to sign players, but I personally think last summer was a missed opportunity, or the summer that's just went. I genuinely think it's a missed opportunity purely because we've had 2 title races now. I would have thought, you know what, a blockbuster centre mid, a game-changing striker, a game-changing wideman. I'm not too sure with that regards. Now, fair enough, we've been done dirty with injuries. And why I'm a bit annoyed with Mikel Arteta, bro, is because you go back in February, he said we've got one of the smallest squads. Now, for me, you know, I'm not saying to not let Eddie and Nketiah and Smith Rowe and Nelson and Fabio go, but it's smaller. There's more games with less players. You let Odegaard, you take Odegaard out, we don't tick. We don't tick as much defensively. We don't tick as much offensively. Saka is Saka. Anyone's going to miss him, but you've got no one that can replicate that. So you have Raheem Sterling, who's trying to get back to his best, or you've got Gabriel Jesus, who I felt was better against Shakhtar, but fundamentally still not over the line. So there's too many unanswered questions. How do you feel about the lack of creativity and what you're seeing currently, specifically in midfield under Mikel Arteta? Because, you know, Moreno said it's NBA stuff. I just want to see us play football, man.
Yeah. So in the video coming out tomorrow on the Goonerverse, one of the things
make sure the notifications are on, people.
One of the things I touch on, I'm sort of spoiling the vid, but it's fine. I talked about how at the moment we line up, get very boring and tactical if people don't like this kind of stuff, but here we go. We line up at the moment with Calafiori inverting. When Calafiori inverts, like Zinchenko did, it pushes Rice, and it was Xhaka a few seasons ago, up into the front line. Because it's just a simple one goes in and the other moves forward. But what we've had recently, because in the absence of Odegaard, we've asked Havertz to drift out to the right a little bit more.
Like you saw against Shakhtar.
We don't want him to become the right 8. We still want him to kind of be the striker. So he's still peeling to the right, but trying to stretch the back 4 and do what he does. Trossard is therefore moving to the left 8 kind of space. So what you've ended up with is Calafiori, Rice, and Trossard all in each other's way, it feels. So sometimes Rice goes all the way out to the touchline to try to receive the ball. By the time that's all unfolded, I'm going, well, Havertz he's drifting to the right, and I want him up the pitch, sort of more central. Rice should be either in the 6 or box to box, but certainly not on the left touchline. Calafiori's inverting. He's meant to be linking up play, but you could say Trossard's there to link up play with, but I haven't seen that work too much. Martinelli's just kind of somewhere there. And it all just feels like a poor fit. So a small tweak for me would simply be, and I'm not making this up, I'm not just like playing Football Manager here. Arteta's given us the answers. Man City, first 45 minutes, Rice played on the right of Thomas Partey. He played as the right at the right as the right 8. Look at what he did to win the corner for the Gabriel goal that puts us 2-1 up. Saka is running with the ball at Gavardiol. Rice goes on the right on the overlap, puts the ball into the box, we win a corner. By doing that, Havertz hasn't had to go all the way over to Saka. He's been able to hold a position in the box, and Trossard's drifting left 8. And everything is so much more balanced. Look how we played after that first rocky 15, 20 minutes. We then got on the ball. We started out playing City at the Etihad. That, for me, is the solution. It's a small tweak, but just get Trossard and go, you stay where you are, but Rice, you go to the right of Partey. And suddenly I just think we've got a better balance. Now, football is probably not as simple as that. And Mikel Arteta could well hear something like this and go, what an idiot. Football isn't well like that.
Yeah, what are you two talking about, man?
And there's probably a lot of other things out of possession I haven't considered there. But in terms of pure attacking balance, that's the one for me that gets the best out of the profiles of midfielders we have at the moment, and that doesn't cost other people in the team. Do you get where I'm going?
Yeah, no, I think you're bang on the money, especially around build-up play. I think I would. The only thing I would add on to what you said is I wish I could speak to Mikel Arteta, because I know you're not Arsene Wenger, and I know it's and I know it's not the same. But regardless of who went out there, we were still able to pass the ball, create triangles and whatnot. I'd love to speak to Mikel Arteta. Is it psychological? Are you probably got too much of a handbrake defensively? Because it does feel to a degree under Mikel Arteta. We've gone from, there was a time we played attractive football, but the Wenger days, we was naive. We were just all attack. Now it's kind of like we're all defense. I'm not being fair to us, but it feels like we're all defense. I feel like we're doing low and narrow blocks, but we're inviting a lot of pressure. And then obviously, we're not in sync in the final third. No matter how much we shape it, football's about keeping balls at the back of the own net, putting balls in the others. So I can't necessarily see that. And I don't know how he changes it, man, because at the same time, for how I praise how he's assembled this squad, if we're having these issues and these are the players available, this is what you've got. Now, if you look at someone like Ethan, I would love to see Ethan start. I wonder if Mikel Arteta is genuinely considering him against Liverpool. I don't think he will. But I think one thing that goes over people's head is it's not about what Ethan can do with a ball. 100% it is. But it's all the other attributes that Odegaard has to do consistently throughout 90 minutes. Arteta clearly thinks he's not up for it, or maybe he's not. It's not that he's not up for it. He's got other options. And that's where I feel, and I'd love to know your thoughts on Mikel Moreno, because again, I think people are very harsh. And I'm not saying fans are saying this, but you can't go in the summer and say he's going to replace Saka, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he wins duels. And then, you're writing a guy off that's really only just started getting significant minutes. And against Bournemouth, I think he had too much to do. I think our midfield was at 6s and 7s anyways. You're seeing him try to run beyond Kai Havertz, link up with Havertz, drop deep as well and offer a passing lane. So I think he's in issues. I think the bulk of our issues at this moment in time, beyond the obvious, I genuinely think it's in midfield. And even someone like Declan Rice, he's been in for a lot of criticism. What do you make of Declan Rice? Because a lot of people have said he's uninspiring currently and he's not been in the best of form.
Well, yeah, Marino, Rice. I mean,
I think Partey's been the best of all of them, if I'm honest.
Partey's been up there with our
He's been good for a while.
I think,
if I'm honest.
I think that I was critical of Partey in some of the earlier games, but Partey, Saka, Raya, I have as 3 of our 5 best, with Raya and Saka fighting out for the best 2, probably Saka. Look, on Marino, forget even the whole it's quite early, it's too early. I'm not even sure what people have seen that they hate on so much. I mean, let's go through his appearances. Came on against PSG. Did absolutely
good cameo
fine.
With the tackles.
Defensively, did absolutely fine. Nothing I saw was I particularly concerned about on the ball. Perfectly tidy. Came on against Southampton. Well, I think he came on at 1-1 and we won that game. We certainly looked better. Played lovely.
And he's up there for tackles in both those games in the minutes he's played as well.
Got absolutely stuck in. Played lovely ball over the top to Martinelli. Kept things moving. Then the Bournemouth game. Well, he's not a 10. And I think Arteta kind of got that one. Arteta got that one wrong and he struggled, Marino for sure, but he also created the best chance of the game for Arsenal. He also had the best shot outside of that chance of the game for Arsenal. So you could argue he was also our best attacking threat on the day that, which isn't saying a lot, but he was. What are we at after that? Shakhtar, he came on for 45 minutes and look, we weren't good, but the whole team wasn't, and we won and we didn't concede with them on the pitch. Like, what are we saying is so terrible about
because I think fans just got excited, James. You're watching YouTube videos, you just want to see a new signing they've built. I'm not saying he won't be this, but you've building them up so much, it's underwhelming, like, to fans.
But also, what were people expecting? I mean, like, I wanted a Bruno Guimaraes, a Frankie de Jong, I wanted something quite special in terms of a central midfielder.
You're not alone.
When you really think about it, Man City have a plethora of unbelievable midfielders. We know that. And it's kind of scary. I'm not sure anyone in world football can compare with De Bruyne, Rodri, Gundogan, Kovacic, Bernardo, Phil Foden. It's like
the list goes
on.
My word, Bernardo can even play in them roles.
They've literally got like 5 world-class midfielders, okay? So, and that's maybe the level we need to get to. So maybe that's another conversation. But what did people think Marino was going to be? I mean, Rice is a superstar midfielder. Odegaard's a superstar midfielder. There you go. Hit the like button.
Agrees,
Hit the like button on the stream. I think Marino was coming in to be a facilitator. He was coming in to be someone
to keep things ticking.
Yeah, who kept things ticking and profile-wise was a perfect fit for what we had. Partey on his day is a superstar midfielder. We hope Waneri is growing into that. So I don't think the squad is going to be filled with, well, every single midfielder is world-class. And when you can't get those other names I mentioned, Mourinho felt like a really sensible addition. I'm not really sure what he's not done in these opening games that people are going, what? He's not Prime Zidane. And okay, I'm being facetious. No one's expecting him to be Prime Zidane. But you get my point. I don't know what people... And I'm not saying he's been good. I think he's just been fine. I'm not quite sure what has been so terrible about him.
I think you're bang on the money, man.
Really harsh.
I think you're bang on the money.
Maybe I'm being really nice to him. I don't know.
You know how Arsenal football fans are, man. It's not even just Arsenal. You know how football fans are. 1 minute they love you, then they hate you. You know, the very man that I'm going to ask you about now, Martin Odegaard, his first 6 months at Arsenal, nobody wanted him here. People, you know, a couple of weeks ago said we don't necessarily need him when we was getting results. Now you can see the issues. Do you think that Odegaard's absence, do you think it's a case of Odegaard's back in we create, or do you think Odegaard's absence highlights probably our lack of chance creation?
Say that one more time, sorry.
Do you think Martin Odegaard's absence highlights a lack of creation issues, or do you think it's just a case of Odegaard comes back in, we're back in sync?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on Arsenal if Odegaard doesn't come. If when Odegaard comes back, we don't suddenly look great.
Such is life, Jay. We can't win.
But I think we've looked good without Odegaard at times. PSG, I thought we were brilliant. Leicester, I thought we absolutely peppered their goal. We were all over them, battered them. Okay, they are the worst team in the league. Well, no,
I think we lose too much defensively without him, man, and that's my bigger concern beyond the obvious.
I think at times we've lacked the ability to just get our foot on the ball, control a game, and just like settle things down. Right, we've not had the ball for a little while. Let's just get control of this. You know, Inner Circle makes a really good point. When Partey went to right back, you had Rice and Mourinho in midfield, and it fell apart.
We lost control.
Yeah. I told. We said we needed a game changer. I think we did, but in midfield, I mean, maybe, but we needed something.
Hard to source, though, man. I would have loved a Santi or a Cess, but where are they?
Dream stuff. That I would have loved to have added a Frankie De Jong or someone of that ilk. But see, with this, you know, the midfield fell apart when Partey came out of it, and I can't speak for Inner Circle because I don't know what his thoughts were a month or two ago. But what was the general thoughts of the fan base on Thomas Partey a month or two ago?
Exactly.
No legs, he's not at it. Too slow.
They were saying Moreno and Rice. Partey's days are numbered.
Moreno in there, get Rice back in the six, and now the general consensus is we can't take Partey out of midfield. So why don't we learn from that and realize that maybe Moreno needs a bit of time, as Partey needed a little bit of time to get going, and everything might be okay. And maybe it won't be, and maybe I'm an idiot and we're wrong. But to like make conclusions on it for sure now. Yeah, I'm not sure. Look, long term, I do think, and I'm sorry to, Thomas Partey says, but I think our best balance is Rice at the six, Mourinho if he discusses his form, and Odegaard. That for me is the best balance.
That's the natural progression. Partey's not going to be here after this year, realistically.
Well, yeah, it's, maybe
you never know, but yeah.
But my biggest concern about the midfield is why Waneri isn't being trusted. Honestly, I'm not concerned about Mourinho. I think he'll get there. And I'm not concerned about the sixth position because you've got one of Rice, Partey, or Jorginho. So for me, it's in the absence of Odegaard. Why isn't Waneri playing? Now, I'm not saying Arteta's wrong for not playing him. Arteta might be right. 17 years old, might feel he's not quite ready and we're not quite there yet. But if that's the case, why were we so happy to let Vieira and Smith Rowe go? Especially Vieira on a loan. Now that starts to feel quite weird.
Because maybe he thought Moreno and, maybe he thought a thing where, like, it's not necessarily directly Ethan. I think maybe he thought this Moreno experiment, Trossard's played there. He tried it, I think, back in Atalanta with Kai Havertz and Jesus. Maybe these are the kind of things Arteta thought would work, which you could say on paper we've got some results and been ticking over. But I think in terms of fans, what we want to see, probably not. I'm with you in that. I think on one hand, we need to take our time with Ethan. I think fans are developing an unhealthy obsession with the guy. But on the other hand, if you're good enough and you're in the squad, play him. What more have you got to lose? At least he would learn from it. And we'll get on to Lewis Skelly. But it's like even Lewis Skelly playing left back if something happens. God forbid he gets torn a new one from Mohamed Salah. At least that young 18-year-old is going to sit there after the game. And I know it's going to be no tonic to Arsenal fans because we wouldn't have won. But he's going to sit there and think, boy, this is what the Premier League's about. This is what I have to do better. And that's actually, because I keep saying it, broski, this is actually something I want to ask you as well. we got to talk about the defense, man. We've got to talk about the defense. Like Saliba's not there, Tommy's not there, Zinchenko's had 9-10 minutes. Lewis Skelly came off the bench against Shakhtar. Is that telling in relation to this? What do you think about our defense at the moment? And what defense you going out there with? If you had to pick, are you going out there with? I'll help you, Gabriel and David Raya. That's about it. It's
okay. I think, should we do my usual James half glass full? Look, I've got a glass of water, right? There's barely anything in it, and I'm
take us to town, man.
I'm gonna pretend that's half full. That's what I'm gonna pretend. That's basically half full. That's how optimistic I'm about to be. You could say, wow, we've got Saliba, Timber, Calafiori, all out. Tomiyasu as well, sorry, all out. And we could still line up with White, Kivior, Gabriel, and Zinchenko.
Oh, does that fill you with optimism, though?
By the way, I don't think that's a good enough back four to beat Liverpool.
That's why I asked, so we can get out there.
For most games in the season, that is a more than adequate back four. For most games, like, you can have basically 4 very, very, very good defenders out and still line up with those. All Miles Lewis Skelly. All play Partey right back. All play right centre.
Not against Liverpool.
So we're not. So the fact we have so many options is a good thing. And you know, you could argue, wow, you can have that many injuries and players out, and you're still able to field something kind of half sensible for most Premier League games. Yeah, it's a good thing. Okay, now let's be more realistic and admit this is not half full. It's almost completely empty, and be completely honest.
Bit like our defensive options, right?
A bit like our defensive
right on brand.
I don't know if there's a front three in the league that are more physically demanding on a defense than Liverpool. They are so physically imposing with their pace, their power, their dynamism, their movement, their work rate,
the transition.
And so I almost think you need right. Could you get the comment up by Fromis Gunner, White, Kivior, Gabriel, Timber? Right. Now, here's what's extraordinary about this. And again, I touched on this in the video coming out tomorrow. It doesn't make any sense, really, to play Kivior centre-back and Timber left-back in any other context. Timber's right-footed and has played most of his career centre-back. Kivior's a centre-back / left-back, so he'll drop into the back three with White inverting. Why on earth would we possibly play it this way around? But because of Mo Salah,
you don't want Kivior out wide, man.
Playing Kivior somewhere he's played before just to try and deal with that threat. Now, I get it. This is a legitimate option. I still think I'd swap them the other way around and play Timber at centre back. And at least you've then got a load of centre backs across the back four, which is what Mikel Arteta wanted, you know, for a lot of last season as well. And has
do you see a different Declan Rice then if you have to do that? Because, you know, you'd imagine Declan Rice is still going to be that 8, but I just feel Kivior needs a bit of protection in that regard.
You know what? You're right. You could play Rice left 8 so that he can get across and help a little bit. But I also don't want him moving too far from Partey.
Conundrums, man.
Okay, here's what I want. I think at this rate, you may as well just play to your strengths and to your players' strengths. So I would go, if Timber's fit, I'd go White, Timber, Gabriel, because they can form the back three and build up. And I'd go for one of Lewis Skelly or Zinchenko. Because at that rate,
pick one. Gun to your head, pick one.
You know what? I'm not picking. Arteta picked.
No, that's a cop-out, James, man.
No, I'll tell you.
If it was up to you, Lewis Skelly or Zinchenko.
I'd go Lewis Skelly because that's what Arteta did. Like, Arteta made the
decision.
decision.
Forget Arteta. We want to know what you would do.
What? If Arteta had picked Zinchenko to come on in that game, I'd be saying Zinchenko. But what I'm saying is Arteta's seeing something that made him go, Lewis Skelly, I'm calling on you. So that's my pick. I'm going, well, there you go.
Do you think we're reading too much into that, though? Because I agree with you for what it's worth, but maybe he just brought him off the bench.
Maybe. I mean, maybe he just thought it was a good opportunity. Maybe there was something with Zinchenko and Kivior that didn't make sense for him. I don't know. But I mean, ultimately, whoever you go with at left back, I would go with a solution there that then allows you to just go with Gabriel, Timber, and White. So at least you're feeling really good about 3 of the 4 positions. And if Lewis Skelly gets a debut, then great, you know, good luck to him. I would just, I'd really try and play to our strengths. I think if we had our fully fit squad of the likes of Tomiyasu, Saliba, I'd say, yeah, let's build an 11 that's going to cater to both stopping them and allowing us to play our football. But I think we're almost a little bit too injury ravaged at the back to just fully build an 11 that's designed to stop Liverpool. Because, okay, we stop them. I'm not happy with a 0-0. We need to hurt them too.
We still need to be able to ask questions
the
because they ain't got their first choice keeper, even though Kelly, I believe his name, he's a good keeper in his own right, but he's no Alisson.
Yeah. But I mean, also Liverpool, their defensive record's fantastic, and Artem and Van Dijk are brilliant. But we can go at them. I think we can go at them.
I'm with you, and I must admit, a bit like you, I'm happy I'm not Mikel Arteta because I do think you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. On one hand, I feel I want to see Kivior because, he's a bit more solid than Zinchenko. You could stick a job on him. But as you know, that obviously has connotations for how we're progressing. He's not going to do the inverted role. So we're not really going to be doing what we're doing. I don't mind Lewis Skelly. I love the guy. I think, in the cameos I've seen him, we know he's young. We know evidently he will show his age. I think he showed it against Bolton, but I think the temperament's there. And you could argue, out of Kivior, Zinchenko, Lewis Skelly, he's probably behind all three of them. Well, the bottom of the three, but you'd rather see him because he's learning from it. I agree with what you're saying about Timber at centre half. A part of me, we would, if we're pressed, Kivior goes right centre half. But then I look at that Bournemouth game, and when he's dragged into areas, you're kind of in trouble. And I wonder what it would mean for Benjamin White and Timber or Kivior, whoever's playing fullbacks, because you kind of half have to play your game because evidently we're going to have a high line and the threat. Our left field choice, I must admit, and again, I think whatever we do, there's holes in the squad, but a left field choice at centre half, I would strongly consider Declan Rice. I genuinely would.
A lot of people are saying that. Because
you put a gun to my head, bro, would I rather him or Kivior centre back? With the greatest of respect to Kivior, Declan Rice, but then the midfield.
Yeah, there's a lovely balance to that as well, which is, well, actually, here's my question: who'd be your left back if Rice is centre back? Who'd be your left back?
This is the thing. Because I feel sorry for Gabriel going into that game because I think he's probably a bit more confident with Kivior. I think Gabriel's probably sitting there and thinking if Kivior's playing, I've only probably got to be a bit more front-footed on the ball because Kivior, he might get savaged and whatnot, but he's relatively switched on. I think with Zinchenko, that harms Gabriel because I think when he plays with Zinni lately, he has to kind of think about his job as well. The issue is, though, I agree with what you're saying in that we're kind of at the point where you might as well, and it could go left, play to your strengths. We know what Zinchenko's about. We know defensively he's a liability. We've seen him against Salah. But him inverting, maybe if it goes our way, you could do something.
But also, DG, sorry, right?
Go on, man.
Again, like people forget this stuff. Like Zinchenko, I'm not having a go at you. I'm having a go at people who like hate Zinchenko, right? Zinni started the game at home to Liverpool in February when we peppered them off the park. We were brilliant. We went in at 1-1. I couldn't believe it was 1-1. We should have been 3-0 up, right? We were brilliant. And Zinchenko started left back that game. And what did we do? And Jamie Carragher did a whole piece on Monday Night Football. We didn't just invert Zinchenko in possession. We inverted him out of possession and we pressed with a back three and then a 2 and then a 4 and then a 1. So what we had, is that quite how it looked? Maybe I'd go as close to Havertz. But my point is, what we did was we knew that they had a front three. We went man for man, and we knew they had a 3-man on our double pivot. So Zinchenko went in as well. So that's not beyond the realms of possibility that we play Zinchenko there and do well. The thing we've got though is if Rice plays centre back, and I think this is true of Partey playing right back as well, they have to be the midfield steppers. So if Rice is centre back,
especially Rice.
He needs to step into midfield in possession like a John Stones does for City. Can he do it as well? Big task. Or Partey has to invert from right back. If you're doing that, then the other 3 players in their back four for me have to be natural centre backs, in which case Kivior plays. In which case Kivior has to play because you're going to have White, Rice, Gabriel, Gabriel, Kivior. Rice steps forward, White, Gabriel, Kivior.
We need to be
Partey,
compact.
White, Gabriel, Kivior. You invert Partey, White, Gabriel, Kivior. You can't have a situation in which Partey's in build-up in the back three and not contributing anything to the midfield build-up, or Rice is just basically left at the back to not remotely insert his kind of dominance on the midfield in any way, shape, or form. So that's where it gets sticky. And if one of Rice or Partey play in the back four, for me, Kivior has to play.
I don't want to see Partey in the back four, man. I know if need be, let's do it.
Yeah,
You can't rule out anything. You can't even. I don't know what Arteta would do. You could put Partey right back and Benjamin White centre half. I think he's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. What I want to see from the manager, I know it's the players playing, but what I want to see from the manager is commit to it. If we're playing Zinchenko, commit to it. We know Zinchenko can't, obviously he's going to have to defend, but let's commit to playing the way we play. No clue how Liverpool will set up. Obviously, me and you are not Liverpool fans. We're not watching them week in, week out, but everyone can see they're slightly different from Arne Slot. If you put a gun to my head, genuinely, I'm considering Declan Rice, but again, you lose a lot in the injury room. And I think one thing people forget about Mikel Arteta is we want to win the ball back as high and as quickly as possible. You lose that if you take Declan Rice out of midfield. So to answer your question, do you know what? I'll probably change my mind by the time this stream's done, but back five, David Raya, White, fuck it, man. Timber left back, obviously Gabriel. You know what, Kivior? Give me a game, man. Give me a game, Kivior.
And are we in for any surprises? You know, Arsenal are everything. Everything is kept so tightly behind the scenes, right? And I know things leak, but
who are you alluding to? What are you alluding to? Is it the little chili? Is there any hope that he'll be about?
I'm quite confident Saka will be fit, but I mean, obviously, we don't know that for sure. But what do we know? Okay, Timber not training. What do we know about Tomiyasu? You know, like it's a legit question, isn't it? What do we know about him? Nothing.
I would love to be surprised, James, and he's there, you know.
He played against Southampton. There was a slight setback from that game. That was 3 weeks ago now. So has he picked up an injury that was keeping him out for more than 3 weeks? Maybe. I mean, that's very possible. It's Tomiyasu we're talking about. But what don't we know and why don't we know it? These are just the questions I'm asking.
Good point.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, so is there a surprise? You know, Odegaard. I keep saying, oh, he's out. He's out. Why?
No, I think that one there, James, he's out. He's out.
So
I hope he's on the bench, but I think he's out.
I think so too. But why are we so sure? We haven't been given any time frame on his return. They said they're confident for November. We're only a couple of days off that. Look, for what it's worth, my prediction is Timber won't be fit. Saka will be fit.
So it could be Kivior Anthony in the back four.
Tomiyasu and Odegaard won't. But I'm just asking the question because Arsenal, if you're going to be that secretive about things, you're going to have fans guessing and trying to pick holes in everything you're not saying rather than everything you are saying. So, in fact,
James,
while we're here, I'm just going to quickly refresh Twitter just to see if anything comes up. Because
I think you're bang on the money, James, man. Because if you look in the last 2 weeks, the way our manager's spoken about Bukayo Saka, I've got a bone to pick with Mikel Arteta because the way he spoke about Bukayo Saka in relation to the Bournemouth game made me believe we'd see Saka to the point where I captained Saka in my FPL team. Now I don't know what to. Arteta is a bit like Arsene Wenger in the sense that sometimes he sounds very upbeat, sometimes he sounds quite negative, sometimes he gives nothing away. So it is wait or see mode. I do need Timber to be fit. I do think, like you, I think Saka will be there. The problem would naturally be how fit is Saka in. You know, I'm no medical man, but do you aggravate it? But yeah, man, like what have you seen on social?
So Sky is saying that Saka, Calafiori, and Timber were not in training ahead of Sunday's game against Liverpool.
That could be mind games, man. They could have been training in another location.
My friend Matt Dawson, big up to him, has said Arteta generally strikes me as the type of bloke who would ask all his injured players to stay inside if he knows the cameras are rolling. And I totally and utterly agree with that. I think there's absolutely every chance that he's just said to them, stay indoors, wait till they're gone, and then come out.
Because it will be late fitness tests with them. Like you're going to run Saka down to the wire. You're probably going to run Timber down to the wire. I don't know for Calafiori and the tests. And, you know, when you get them kind of injuries, every day probably presents something. And that is the most upsetting thing I've seen in the last week with Arsenal because it's just right on brand with us, with Calafiori picking up that knock at the worst possible time. Would you switch to my last question for you then? Would you switch to a back three? Would you consider it? I know.
My thing is, like, if you're playing Lewis Skelly or Zinchenko at left back or Partey at right back, and we're basically playing a back three anyway. Like, we're in possession, we're a back three. If we're talking about a back three with wing backs bombing up and down the pitch, well, how do we make that happen? You're asking, you're going to need to find wing backs out of somewhere, and Arteta has not built a squad of wing backs. That's the one thing I'll say. Or you're asking Saka and Martinez to do a job of wing backs, in which case you're bringing them really far from their usual high and wide role. So I don't see where there's any upside to it. And like I said, if you're talking, well, because we only have 3 centre backs on the pitch, we do that in possession anyway. So not for me. For those asking for it, I think you get it anyway in our tactical
I
system.
think you're bang on the money, James, man. I think, again, kind of going back to what we said at the start, I think there's multiple reasons, probably more reasons to quote unquote be negative. I'm just trying to focus on the positive. Now, I'm not focusing on blind positivity. I've never been a fan of that. Like, I understand
Oh, for
people got to
sure,
cope how they, yeah, people got to cope how they got to cope in their own way, bro. But for me, if you can't be up for the Liverpool game, then if I see a performance against Liverpool, how we did against Bournemouth, now you can pack up this season, because even the build up for Bournemouth's penalty, I'm not blaming Kai. He missed out on the draw, but even the sequences of events, you need to get back to it. And at the end of the day, it's football, isn't it? It's not like Formula One where you're affected by the car and your mechanics and whatnot. Yes, injuries play a big part, but end of the day, are you faster? Are you stronger? Are you winning your duels? Are you defending well? Are you scoring goals? Let's get back to it. You're going to have the fans, which kind of makes me nervous, because me and you have spoken before. I prefer to play away from home. Definitely wouldn't want to go to Anfield with these circumstances.
Yeah,
but I think it's going to be a game of drama, man. I actually hot take, I think Gabriel Jesus is going to score. I've been saying this every week, so don't mind me. But I think Jesus might do something. He's got a decent record generally in his career against Liverpool. Who knows? Raheem Sterling off the bench might do something. All my hopes are in Kai. I don't know, man. My last question.
Jesus was a go-to for Guardiola in big games a couple seasons ago.
He loved scoring against Liverpool at one point, bro.
Liverpool. So that's very possible. Very possible.
My last question for you then, and I hate to be it, but I have to ask it to content creators when they're here. Does Arteta have to win a trophy this year? I have to ask the question.
Well, my question is, what does have to look like? Is it if he doesn't win a trophy, he gets sacked? My question to people who say that is, okay, maybe we always want to improve. We always want to improve our players. Ramsdale, got improved by Raya. So, okay, my question would be, is there a better manager that you're very confident can take this group and almost sure can take this group and get them over the line, when we've got a manager who up till now has only been improving? It depends on the context.
Flirting with success.
Do we finish, third, 10 points off top? Do we finish fourth, miles off it, and we've been in a top 4 scrap? That's not good enough for the money we've spent. Zidane's record in the Champions League is unbelievable, but he was so made for that club. Does it translate to Arsenal? I'm not convinced.
If you're not getting me Xabi Alonso, it will take a lot for me to let Mikel Arteta go. Now, I know I'm not. Go on.
Yeah, sorry. I just think I would be staggered if even a trophyless season we played to a level that had basically the fan base unanimously saying, yeah, he's got to go, because it would mean we've had a disaster of a campaign, and people would probably just be fed up and feel like we now need the next jump. And then those who are saying he is our Rodgers or our Pochettino might be onto something. But I think he's a young manager who is only 5 years into his first ever managerial job, who's doing a fantastic job. I agree with something Turkish said, which is that he'll win the big ones one day, whether it's at Arsenal or somewhere else. I agree with that. I'd rather persist with him as he gets to that, as long as there's always a basic look. For what it's worth, I think he does have to win a trophy. I think he does have to. Because it's been a long time with a lot of money now. But if he doesn't, and we're talking about sacking him, like the circumstances have to be pretty extreme for me. And then context will tell us everything as well around that. So I've answered it because it's not a question I like answering, because
that's why I have to ask it, man. I hate it's a pet peeve of mine, James, as well. It's nice to ask someone else it.
It just feels like a
binary question.
Trying too much to come up with circumstances for the next 40 games of the season. That's so much to like. I can say if we lose to Liverpool, we go 7 points behind, I don't think we're going to win the league. I can say that. We're talking about one game. We have a lot of context going into that game. We're trying to predict what we look like at the end of the season, in which so much can happen. If we finish 9th and win the Champions League, that's such an extreme situation. But like, what if we did? And then what would people say? Well, that's
you can't win.
Abysmal performance in the league, but we won the big one. So we're feeling good about ourselves. Probably because we won the Champions League. But I don't know. When the season's over, we'll reflect on everything and we'll answer for whether Arteta did it, overachieved, fell short, massively fell short, and where we are.
I'm conflicted when it comes to Mikel Arteta, purely because, for what it's worth, I lean towards more Mikel Arteta in than out. I'm not, I don't back Mikel Arteta religiously, in the sense that, if you do something wrong, I'm going to ask a question. For me, money has been spent. I big you up and say you're, second best manager in the league and all of this. So naturally, if things go left, there's issues. We have got to the point where, for me as a fan, you've shown me the rebuild. You've shown me you're a mad scientist. Are you the guy to get over the line now? The rebuild's done. Are you the guy to get over the line? Some of the issues I feel are self-inflicted. Realistically, it would take a lot for Mikel Arteta to get sacked. Not saying I want that. Just signed a new deal. You'd have to do something where ninth and no league. I do think Mikel Arteta can't win, in the sense that if he doesn't win the Prem or the Champs, he's in issues. Because if he wins an FA Cup, people say, oh, it's just a second FA Cup. It's not really anything. So I'm more lean towards Mikel Arteta in. If there was a solution where there's someone that can do what Arteta does, take us to the next level, great. I love Bukayo Saka. But if there was a right winger that's twice the ability, I'm not going to say not bringing him in. So I'm here for it with Arteta. And I've say my biggest issue, because kind of what you said with Turkish, I think that's on brand, because that's what I say as well. And that I do think Mikel Arteta, in his short managerial career so far, has shown he's a good guy. I do think he'll go and win stuff. I want it to be at Arsenal. I don't want him to do good and bad things here at this club and then think to himself, you know what, if he's at Madrid, for example, when I did that at Arsenal, it didn't work. Let me do it here. I want to be able to enjoy the fruits of the labor, essentially. So we'd have to see, but progression is everything. If you finish third and, we're off the points tally, or our league title hopes are over in December, then I think there'll be questions. But I think he'd have to do something extreme to get sacked. But I'd rather him win the league and do things. And I think there's more reasons to keep him. But that doesn't mean I just defend anything. And I'm sure you're the same, because you've criticized Arteta numerous times for the praise you give him.
And this is the thing, because I think he's a good manager. I think people think I've never criticized him. I have. And then when I do, I feel a bit stupid, because I'm like, the hell am I criticizing a guy who's got like 2,000,000% more knowledge of the game? Like I don't know. But at the same time, he gets things wrong, and sometimes you're then proven right with that. Like,
he does learn quickly. I'll give him that.
For a long time, I didn't rate Bellerin, and I'd be like, why is he playing Bellerin when he's not looked the same since his ACL, and Cedric's a better option? We were in the mud at this point, right? Let me make that clear, right? This was a bad time for us.
Yeah, man. People used to say Pablo Maria is better than Gabriel. These were dark times. Dark times.
And now here we are. Right, a few years on, Cedric had a much more sustained part to play in the squad. After Bellerin left, and you sit there going, oh, so maybe that take aged quite well. We all thought starting Mourinho in the 10 was silly, and on Tuesday against Shakhtar, he played Trossard back in the 10. So clearly, he wasn't convinced that the Mourinho thing works either. So we are West fans; we do know things. The good and the bad.
I wonder if he puts Havertz there, just completely random. You just made me think. I don't want to move Havertz up front, but I wonder if, just because we're a bit weak in terms of defensive options, do you get Rice in there? Do you get Havertz and bring Jesus in there? Do you get Payet?
It's a no from me. It's like,
no for me as well. I'm not with it, but I just wonder. Arteta's got to consider everything, surely.
Inner circles us here. Seriously though, what does improvement look like?
Big up James in the circles bromance, man. This is a developing one on the channel, man.
I think it's far from a bromance. I don't think he likes me. That's okay.
No, he does, man. He's a cool guy, man. He's cool.
What does improvement look like? Improvement is a better points tally. Getting even close to the title, winning silverware. If you don't win the title, did something else come with it? Coming second, 2 points off City, and winning the FA Cup is a much better season than just coming second to Man City. You've got silverware. You've got something to show for your efforts. A Champions League semi-final in which you've run Real Madrid close in the semis, and you've pushed City all the way again, and you've won a Carabao Cup. That's a better season. Not, I don't know. There's a lot of things across 4 competitions we can do. The improvement in the Premier League is very hard to get. That little bit extra that wins us the title.
Minimum games for maximum efforts, man. We're at that point now. Just little things.
But we can do much bigger things in all the other competitions. Like we've been, let's call it as, we've been poor in the other competitions.
Let's be honest. I love Arteta, but I don't want to say you've disrespected the FA Cup, but since we've won it, we've thrown it away. The League Cup, I'm not going to sit here and be the Carabao. Just as I was about to say, I don't want to be a hypocrite here, James, because if we obviously when other teams win the League Cup, I don't necessarily care about. If we win, it's the best thing ever. But I'm sure Klopp's won a couple. I know Pep always goes for it. I don't think we're in a position to look down at any cup. Whether we have the squad deep enough is another question. But you're right, Europe as well. Mikel Arteta has been, last season was probably one of our better years under Mikel Arteta in Europe. It goes away from the Sportings, from the Bayerns. Probably the most time I've been angry with Mikel Arteta would be when we went out to Villarreal, because you put Smith Rowe as a false nine in the semi-finals. And this is where I get annoyed. I know Mikel Arteta wants to win and the players want to win. And I'm not saying he doesn't have pressure, but it's these kind of moments that make me think, in the week to lead up in these games, nobody like your bosses are not sitting there and saying like, what's your plans? There's not that kind of pressure. It's almost like, I like the fact that he's allowed to fail. You're allowed to make mistakes, but I just feel there's moments where you can't. And I just don't think we've got a deep enough squad. I think a lot of issues is because, yes, they've probably tried, but I've seen this movie a number of times and I'm not happy. I know it's not FIFA. You can't sign 1 million players. Me, I would love 2 central midfielders. I'm obviously hypocritical because whether I believe it or not, Kai can play there, Trossard can play there, Odegaard can play there. You have got Jorginho, Partey, Declan Rice, Mikel Merino. I've probably missed out someone, but it just feels like we self-inflict problems at this club. That's just my thoughts as a fan.
You know, we do have the ability to do stupid things, right? You know, 3 red cards in 8 games, albeit I think 2.
Crazy. Do you think we got a discipline problem on that as well?
In the last
3 in 8 games,
the last 5 red cards we've had in the league, right? You know, one of them was Tomiyasu, which I don't think was a red card at Palace. He got booked for something Havertz did, and then he barely touched Ayew when he went down. So I don't think that was ever a red card for Tomiyasu. Vieira, studs were quite high. I can see why that was given.
yeah.
Saliba is no question. And then I mean, and people can call me biased, delusional, whatever. You know, I thought the red card for Saliba was correct, but I still don't think Trossard and Rice meant to intentionally delay the restart.
Oh, James, come on, man.
Wholeheartedly, I genuinely don't believe.
I think they're judged differently, but they definitely knew what they was doing.
Rice.
We're Dark Arts Kings. They definitely knew what they was doing. The ball was moving for Rice, but they definitely knew. Like, I'm giving Trossard the benefit of the doubt, but you definitely knew what you was doing, kicking the ball away. And I don't mind that. Delay restarts. My issue is we're judged differently. Like other people do it, but they definitely do.
I disagree. I think, but we got a
you played the game, man.
But why would why would Trossard on a yellow card want to risk booting the ball to the other side of the pitch?
Which is true.
I think he's done it because Martinelli's running into space. I mean,
That's
I remember Gary Neville was ridiculing him, saying, well, if that was a pass, then it was a terrible pass. Okay, but we're not here to judge how good the pass was. Like, you know, he's hit it into, he's tried to, well, we agree. I think he's hit the ball out wide to Martinelli. I think that's
a true point.
The Rice one, people can say delay the restart. I mean, Veltman picked up the ball, rolled it in front of him,
the ball's moving
further up the pitch from where it was meant to be. It was in Rice's way, and he nudged out the way as he moved up the pitch.
Bro, I was at that game. Do you know how baffled I was? I genuinely thought the Brighton lad was sent off.
I think they're both incredibly harsh. And Veltman, but if we're talking about knowing what you're doing, Veltman knew what he was doing there.
100%.
But for me, the right action
was it's the Prem.
Well, the right thing for me was you don't book either of them. You say, all right, so we'll get
common sense.
Stop.
No more.
And you get on with it. Otherwise, if you're being totally letter of the law, we know what you're doing. You give Rice the yellow because you think you can get into his brain and understand what he's doing. But then you give Veltman the straight red because he's just swiped at him. So for me, you either judge them both as in a I know what you're doing, I'm predicting your behavior way, or you give them both the benefit, 11v11, on we go. But to say Rice, I know what you're doing, and Veltman, no, it's just a mistake, you didn't mean to kick him. Like he's judged both moments completely differently there. So yeah, that's where I am with those. That neither were reds for me. I don't think there's like a massive refereeing agenda on us, though. I will say that I don't think the referees are out to get us. I think we've had some extremely harsh decisions. But I think Wolves would claim they've had the same, and
Wolves have been done dirty for time.
Probably a few other clubs would too. So, yeah.
I mean, it's on brand with Arsenal, Liverpool, because I didn't see it word to Arsene Wenger, so I can't comment on it. But I remember at Anfield last year, genuinely, how Martin Odegaard didn't concede a penalty due to that handball. I don't know. I agree with you in that. I feel Arsenal fans were I do think Arsenal fans can be a bit insecure. It's like they've got this habit now of watching other games and like, oh, but it happened in there. What's going on with Arsenal? I don't think there's a conspiracy theory. I just think there's a level of incompetence by referees, and I think it adds to the entertainment product of the Premier League because it gets people like me and you talking. It's all on the Sky Sports. It adds to it. I think there's too much money in the game. There's too many smart individuals that have says in the Premier League for this to be a coincidence. That being said, though, I do think Arsenal, to a degree, not as extreme as fans, but I do think Arsenal are judged differently. Everybody's doing tactical fouls. We're the only ones with this. But I'd also caveat that with, again, you've played the game, James. When you've got a dodgy referee, easier said than done, but you're simply told don't give them a decision to make.
Well, I don't think the referees are judging us differently massively. I think we've definitely had some strange ones. I mean, the Martinelli double yellow from Martin Oliver for me always strike me as just like an incredible moment. Like, you've never seen it before and you'll never see it again. And you could have seen it again since then, but you haven't, right? I also think, Michael Oliver being the guy who decided Trossard had to go because of the letter of the law, but was not remotely interested in giving Kovacic a straight red and then a second yellow that would have been a red. So that I just find is just extraordinary and is pretty it looks pretty bad on Oliver's perspective. But again, do I think we're judged differently by referees? No. I do think, though, that the media talk about Arsenal differently because we're a very vocal
100%.
and lucrative fan base. So look at this, right? I mean, Ref Watch on Sky was saying that Bernardo Silva was clever for what he did.
Bro, don't get me started. Go ahead. I'm not saying anything.
I agree. It was clever from Bernardo. Bernardo Silva is a no. He's got no obligation to move out the way and let him have a clear run at the ball. He's
very street smart. He saw the penny one against Granit Xhaka a few years ago.
He didn't foul him. He didn't grab him. He didn't bump into him really aggressively. He just stood his ground. And I've got no problem with Bernardo Silva doing that. But why are we then making, a big meal out of, complaints to the PGMOL and the Premier about Arsenal's dark arts and what Ben White does? And suddenly that's all cheating and it's not allowed.
Narrative,
Arsenal should be pulled up on this. It's like, well, why have you got a problem with us doing it? That's the stuff I find really bizarre. And I agree with Inner Circle again. Maybe this is a new bromance. Officiating is absolutely garbage. I agree. It's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, I tell you what, and this is how I'm going to prove my non-bias. I was watching Man United Tottenham. Tottenham was slapping up United. So Bruno Fernandes got a red card that ultimately no one really talked about because Tottenham were playing so well. They felt it didn't really massively impact the game, but it did impact the game. United maybe with 11 men can find something in the second half, but they weren't allowed that opportunity because of a red card for Bruno that for me was pretty harsh. I thought, why have you sent him off? He's barely caught him. However, as much as I thought it was a yellow, I could see why they gave a red. Because as he was slipping, he stuck his studs and his boot up in the air and he caught Maddison a little bit down the side of the leg. I could see, though, I felt it was really harsh. I could see why they gave a red. And yet the PGMOL or the Premier League, whoever it was, came in and rescinded that and basically said, no, we disagree with our referee who gave it in the game, and we're disagreeing with our VAR. We're going to undermine them, and we're going to let Bruno play the next game. What disaster of an institution. They're a complete mess.
And why do you think that is, James?
It wasn't even a clear obvious error, and you still went and overturned it.
Because refs can't be criticized. If me and you were managers, look at Gary O'Neill. Like, he's been fine. Nottingham Forest have been fine. Personally, I think people look at refs as holier than thou. Just like me and you, James, they watch football. They've got their own opinions. They've got conscious and unconscious bias. When you've got that, when you're allowed to fail upwards, like, you might be incompetent against Arsenal, Liverpool. You'll probably be rewarded with refereeing the FA Cup final. I think these are issues. I think referees have developed an ego. Like, I know Howard Webb is not like actively reffing games, but I think to make him a bit of a celeb, it says everything. I think there's a reluctance to criticize them, going on piggybacking off what you said about the media. They get all of their boys, their former boys, to kind of speak and control the narrative. I think this is why referees are poor. If a manager plays poorly, you could lose your job. Players play poorly, you could not play. Me and you say something dumb on YouTube, there's question marks. Referees, you can't say anything. They're treated like celebs. And going back to what you said about the dark arts, what annoys me is when we just used to sit there and, pardon my language, bitch about it when we had softer players, people just said, shut up and get with it. Now we started doing it, and arguably, maybe not so much now, but we just simply we're doing it better than other people. There's issues like when you said Ben White, I don't know why it triggered PTSD. I remember when we played Spurs and Ben White's obviously not this year, but he's playing around with Vicario's glove. I've never seen so much language around that. You know, man said, "Come on, guys, refs are incredible." Jose said it as well
I
last
love
night.
that interview. I love that Mourinho interview.
Jose was a comedy gold yesterday, man, and it's always nice to see United lose. Before I let you get out of here, James, my last thing for you would be big up Patrick, just because I've had your question up here for a while. What would the implications, or what would it mean if we won the title? For me, Patrick, I'm simply going to say the world. It shuts a lot of people up. I think the goalposts will move and they'll say, "Oh, you've only won one in 20 plus years." But I think I would be amazing and ecstatic with it. And I think everyone Arsenal connected would be. But what's your standpoint, James?
It would just be fantastic. It'd be absolutely fantastic for the club, for the fans, for this manager, for these players. You know, and it would shut a lot of people up. We'll have done it our way. And you know, yeah, it's
Can't put the
another.
words, can you? Like it.
It would be, and to be honest, and you know, without getting too deep and cringe about it, like it'd be an emotional moment for me and lots of fans. Like I wasn't a fan back when we were a good team. I was very young.
Yeah.
I didn't understand.
I caught us at a good time, man. But yeah,
that's the thing. I miss the really good times. I mean, the Invincibles is it's probably peak times, you know. And
I was called a glory hunter in primary school for.
There we go. And I just think, I don't know. It would be very special for a lot of reasons, and we'd have done it with some hairline players in there, some signings we really warmed to. I think we're a genuinely good team
in our new stadium per se. I know it's not new anymore, but new.
We'd
it's
have
not
done it in the age of fan media as well. We'd have done it with, you know, players that, when I say we're a nice team, not obviously with the dark arts and all that, but I don't think we're some.
Well, we try to do the gentleman's thing. We're not a dirty team.
That's it. I don't think we're a dirty team. We've spent money for sure, but others have spent a lot more. And we are, you know, and I think we'll have been entertaining on the way, and I think we'll have been resilient in others. And I think it would have.
Careful, people call us boring now.
It would just feel really, I don't know. It'd feel massive in any way you win it. Listen, if you park the bus and win every game 1-0, it'd still feel incredible. But yeah, I think it'd be very special if Arsenal did it. And I think we're capable of it. I really do believe it.
And I don't want to get all cringy, but I would. It's not in Wenger's image, but it'd be in Wenger's image. You've got Edu, who was a former Wenger player, Arteta, who was obviously Haaland, which, you know, indirectly something Wenger was passionate about. In the stadium, he basically paid off. It would be a wonderful moment. It would mean the world, man. Like I'm sure
the guy who started, you know, doing some of his coaching when.
You see what I'm saying? It would be ridiculous.
It would feel very. Look, I want to do it in any way, shape, or form because I've never seen it, and it'd be incredible. But if I had to pick a way to do it, it's how we're trying to do it now. Ultimately, do it the way that's going to win it, you know. But it'd be pretty special if we did it with this particular group, who have had a real journey to get into this point. So
yeah, even Gabriel sums it up. Really.
Let's hope. And Saka, you know,
Saka as well. Come a long way from playing left back when we were shit to now star boy right winger. It would be amazing, man. The only thing that I would say is I just wish Smith Rowe, Tierney, well, he would be here, Ramsdale. I wish some of the people that were here for the journey could be there. But as you know, not everybody lasts the distance. James, it's been amazing. I know you've mentioned this on a couple of occasions, but let people know the video you got to come out. If you're not subscribed to the Gooniverse, make sure you're doing that, folks.
Thank you, man. Yeah, the Gooniverse, where I'm doing my Arsenal content, a lot of it, as well as AFTV.
Great content. He's downplaying it, people.
That's very, very kind of you. I'll let everyone else judge that. No, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, we've got the podcast every now and again. We've got news updates, and we're doing a little tactical look at Arsenal's many solutions for facing Liverpool on Sunday. Basically everything we've talked about here, but I've just tried to annotate it on a tactical pad. So have a little look if you guys fancy it. But thank you, man. Always a pleasure being on. And you know, and I mean that, man. If I wasn't enjoying it, I'd have said, "God, I have to go after an hour." I'm here because I genuinely enjoy chatting.
It's gonna make me tear up, man. Don't do it, James, man.
We have a good time, man, and some really good conversation about lots of things. Let's, you know, what happens at full time. If it's not good, we'll know and we can dissect it. But in the build up to that, Arsenal fans, man, bring the belief, bring the energy. We can beat Liverpool. I really believe we can. Let's see how Sunday goes. Because if we do win, man, that is that I described it on the preview of the AFTV as you've got a small fire and you've just dunked a load of fuel on it and you've just set the whole thing alight.
You know what? You're gassing me. 3-1 Arsenal. Kai Havertz,
Hey!
Martinelli, Jesus. You're gassing me.
You
What have we got to lose? What have we got to lose, man?
I'm sorry if you're
it is what
heartbroken
it
on
is.
Sunday. It'll be my fault. But hey,
It's
I think
Zinchenko we
Arsenal
trust,
come this
man.
way. Yeah.
So yeah, man, people, I hope you've enjoyed the show. We've gone through the negatives, we've gone through the positives. If you want to hear more from me, check out my videos. I implore you all to follow the Goonerverse. If you're too lazy to type that in on YouTube, his YouTube channel is in the bio. James, as you said there, it's amazing. I personally think we're giving Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp a run for their money with this partnership. Appreciate you, man. Let me let you enjoy your Friday, man. You lot, smash the like button, subscribe and that. Peace. James, come on, my guy. Love. He always just goes, I think